Welcome to Admin Chat Presents Secrets Hiding in Your Outlook Data. My name is Melissa Esquibel, and I'm really glad you could join me today. So where are we headed? We're going to look at two ways to get the data out of Outlook, okay, so that you can actually analyze it in something like Excel. And then we're going to tell you why you might want to do that. One of the whys is your email is dying to tell you things. And if you bring it into Excel, it can. So we'll show you how to get that in there and how to get it to talk. We're also going to look at working with your calendar data and ways to use your calendar data to make sure that you're spending your time wisely. We're going to create a mail merge in two ways, one directly from Outlook using Outlook's data in Outlook, and then we're going to export that to a CSV and open it in Excel and see what other things you can take care of in your mail merges if you work with Outlook and Word and Excel. Okay, and then finally, we're going to use Excel to create project plans in Outlook. Excel's got a lot of great date math power, and we're going to show you two techniques for doing exactly that. So there's two ways to get to the data. You can export it out of Outlook using File, Open and Export, Import, Export, or you can simply copy paste what you have on the screen and paste it into Excel. There's good reasons to do one or the other, and it may take some working with it to see which method is best for the data you want to get out of there. And then we're going to talk about how to add fields where you don't have data that you need. So when exporting, choose export to a file and comma separated values. The file that you create here should just be able to open up in Excel. So this is whether you're doing this from mail, contacts, calendar, tasks, same thing, file, open and export, import, export, and export to a file and choose CSV. Now, if your view isn't showing you data that you need, you can use the field chooser to add additional fields to the columns. So first of all, you may have no idea what I'm talking about because you don't even see your column titles. So close your reading pane. That should bring all of your column titles across the top. Then right-click on any one of them and go to Field Chooser. When you click that, this little box is going to come up. Now you can click and drag a field, like from email, you can drag CC up there. And now you can sort by CC or filter by CC or copy the whole thing with the CC off to Excel. So that's a field that already exists. If there isn't a field for what you want, you can click on new and you can add a field. Little tricky to get it in there in the email, but you can add it and then export it and maybe use that column. So let's talk about email first. I mentioned CC up there to the column titles. I really like for people who are getting a lot of email and having a lot of difficulty slogging through the load to look at how much of your email is stuff that you're CC'd on. Well, if you have that up in the column, whether you copy paste, if you export, it'll be there, but it'll be kind of like way out to the right. But if you copy paste it, the CC will be wherever you dragged it up there in the column. So you can take a look at how many emails you're getting CC'd on, who is doing the CC, and then you can have a couple of choices. You can either work with your team to know the appropriate time to CC you or to CC your executive if you're doing this analysis on his or her email, or just decide to write a rule that funnels all of the CC mail out to its own folder. So that's one thing you can do once you're working with your data. You can take a look and see what are the most common topics that you are getting written about, common questions, common topic areas, so that you can see, well, maybe you need to build an FAQ, or maybe there's a reference you can build where you can send people to save some time answering the same questions over and over again. Let's see how we might get to something like that. So here is a file I created doing an export. And this is some of the mail in my mailbox. I don't recommend doing everything if you've got thousands of emails, but you can, take them off to a folder or just select the ones you're concerned about. Now I can turn filter on, which I did, by the way, with Control-Shift-L, and I can look to see how many email messages address Moss. So I'm teaching a Moss exam right now. Well, here we go. So these are all the emails that address the Moss exam. I can see who I'm getting them from. I can see where it's mentioned in the body. I can take a look at if any of these are CC'd. So there's all of this great data that your email's dying to tell you. So you can look at your common topics. You can see when you receive the most email if you're looking at the receive date. So it might be healthy if you find yourself overwhelmed in email to take just some time and export your email and see what kind of email you're getting. For those of you that are really savvy in Excel, you can actually pivot that data or use formulas to extract the data that you're looking for. Copy paste before you change a view. So if you're going to add fields or you're going to rearrange the way it looks up there, probably what I would do is go to the view tab, go to change view, and save the view that you're used to working with first. Then once you've got that saved, now go to view settings, ungroup everything, remove conversation view because you want to be able to see all of your email lines. Then select the email that you want to copy and then paste it into a single cell in Excel, and then it will populate the data. So that's copy paste. The caveat there is you do need to change the way your view looks in order to catch all of the data that you've put in there. Then when you're all done and you have the data, you can click back on change view and your new view will show up in this gallery here, and you select it and then you're back in business. So we can also do that same technique with calendars. Calendar data is just a list. So we're used to looking at the calendar this way, but if we go to the view tab, change view, and use the list view, we're actually seeing the actual data. This too can be copied and pasted or exported to Excel. I want to kind of draw your attention to a couple of things I've got here. I've got CE AICPA, so these would be continuing education for AICPA. And this is CE for my MCT if they required CE. I was just kind of playing to adding a field up there. Well, these don't exist in Outlook. I created them with that field chooser new field button. I also added actual start time and actual end time so that I could come in here and say, well, the meeting may supposed to be starting at 9 o'clock, but it actually started at 9:13. And by tracking things like that, so this one was supposed to end at 10 o'clock and it ended at 11:30. It went way long. This kind of information is really useful when you bring it out to Excel, you do a little date math, and find out whether your meetings are really effective. Are they running properly? Do we have a lot of time spent on people getting connected? You know, all the different things that can happen. So by collecting the information in Calendar and exporting it or copying and pasting it to Excel, you can find out a lot of information about your meeting. So this is some calendar data I exported. And if I do Control-Shift-L and I filter by AICPA, I can say, don't show me the blanks. And now I have a list of all of my CE. I can total it up and report it on whatever I need to report it on. So there is benefit to bringing your calendar data out to Excel. Now, when we talk about contact data, we can definitely use contact data right in Outlook to create a mail merge. And we can also, like we've done with calendars and email, export it to Excel. Let's talk about when you might want to do one versus the other. So let's go out to people here. Here's a bunch of contacts. I can select them. And on the Home tab, in the Actions group, there is the Mail Merge button. Now you got to pay special attention up here. In fact, I've included that in the handout. Watch this selection, because if you're in all of your contacts and you haven't selected any to use in your mail merge, it's possible it's going to default to all contacts in this current view. And if that's not what you wanted, that could be pretty embarrassing. So What I like to do sometimes is copy and paste the contacts I want to work with into a temporary folder, not move them, copy and paste them. So I can, if I accidentally forget to select them, it's only going to use what it can see. And if I'm in that folder, it's only going to see those selected emails. So you'll click Mail Merge. You'll change this down here to email. You'll give it a subject line and okay, and that's actually going to launch Microsoft Word. Now, what happened to the Outlook data? Well, your mail merge is started, so all you have to do is start using insert merge field. So let's say I'm looking for first name here. Hello, first name, exclamation point, and then my message below. You can preview the results up here and go from recipient to recipient to make sure it brought in the names correctly, and then finish and merge. Little warning about finish and merge. When you hit finish and merge, they're going to go to your outbox and then directly out the door. If you want a second look at them, I recommend hitting work offline first before doing your mail merge. That way you can at least look at them in the outbox for a little bit. Okay, the other thing you can do is you can export or copy paste your contacts to Excel. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, here's something that I've seen every now and then happening in contacts. So the names aren't entered consistently. So you can see over here, this one's in lowercase, this one is in proper case. So what I was able to do in Excel is use a function called proper and then select the name and get them all in proper case. I can just add a column, copy them all down, and then this becomes the file that I'm going to use for my merge instead of directly to my Outlook contacts. So you can fix a multitude of sins here in Excel before you do your mail merge. You can add things that aren't there. You can make sure things are spelled correctly. You can remove people, add people. So one of the nice parts about putting it out to Excel is you really get a good solid look at what everything is going to look like before you start doing your merge and catch that little lowercase problem or company name spelled wrong, heaven forbid. So when you get back into Word then, so you'll then start your mail merge from Word. Let me do a new one here. You'll go to mailings. This case, you're going to do start mail merge. You'll tell it you're going to do email here. And then when you select recipients, instead of Outlook contacts, you're going to use an existing list. Let the EX be a cue for you. When you use an existing list, you're going to go out and you're going to hunt down your Excel file and you will use the merge fields there. So that's another way to use data, use your contact data in Outlook. One of my favorite ways to use Outlook data is to create projects. Now, you start from Outlook and you export a template. You notice my little quotes around template because it's not exactly a template, but we're going to make it a template. Then you complete your tasks with your start and due dates. I've got a couple of math functions that can help you do that date math. We'll see how that works. And then we're going to simply import it back to Outlook to create our project plan. The best part of doing it when you export it to Excel and use formulas is you get to save that Excel workbook. And if you ever do a project like that again, all you have to do is change the start date. So let's see what that process looks like. We're going to export tasks. So you're going to go to File, Import, Export, export to a file. You're going to choose CSV and make sure that you have selected your tasks folder. Now, in my case, when I did this from tasks, I had to scroll down quite a bit to find tasks. Don't just let it default. Make sure you've selected tasks. Now, if you've already done a project out there in Outlook and you have all those tasks out in a folder somewhere, as I have here with book project and work from home policy development, you can actually export those tasks and work with data that you already have. But if you're going to export and create a template, you're just going to export whatever you've got there, and then you're going to delete all the entries and just keep the column titles. So what you would get once you deleted everything is this is every field in Outlook tasks. Okay. Now, I don't need most of these. I know that I need start date and due date and subject because that's going to be my task description. I'm actually going to hide the rest of these. I'm not going to change the order of them. I'm just going to hide them for right now, because in order to use my formulas, I'm actually going to add a temporary column called duration. So let's say we're going to do this and do that and do the other. All right. So if our start date is today, and we know the task is going to take about 10 business days, we can use a couple of very cool formulas. Now you can just type your start and due dates in if you want to, or you can use Workday and Workday to kind of help you. Let's see what that would look like. So I said this is going to take about 10 working days. I know that this task is going to start one day after this task. It's got nonsense in there right now. And that this task is going to start one day after this task. All right. So how do we figure out what the real dates are? With Workday, Workday wants to know the start date and it wants to know the duration. That's in W2, appropriate for tax season. So now you'll notice this one filled in. Well, we think this one's going to take 5 working days and maybe this one's going to take 14 working days. Okay, let's copy this formula down. And just like that, you've got accurate start and due dates for this project. Now, here's where you can kind of look at it, compare it to a holiday calendar. You'll notice that Workday actually allows you to enter holidays. So if you have a list of holiday dates, you can select that, and it will even take that into consideration here. So that is Workday. And before you do the final steps, which would be to do copy paste values and save this as a CSV, save this one with the formulas, because if you decide to do this project or something very similar again, let's just say this one's going to start on the 12th of September. Watch what happens to the dates when I press enter. They automatically change. So if you save it with the formulas, it's real easy to recreate the dates again. Let's take a look at something different here. So I'm going to get rid of, I'm going to do a copy paste values here. This is just to show you something. This isn't part of the process. Let's say you did export the data that was already in a task folder. So you already had the previous start and due dates. Before you get rid of them, you want to find out how long did it take. You can use something similar called network days, which here's the start date, here was the due date or the end date. And of course, if you had holidays, you could select those here, press enter, and it would tell you what the duration was. And then you can use that information to plan future projects. So whether you're using network days to figure out what you did on a previous project, or you are planning a new project using Workday, those functions can really help you. So now, again, before you do these steps, save it with the formula so that you can actually use that as your template going forward for that type of a project. Then you're going to select everything, do a copy paste values. So I'm going to get control, copy, paste, values and number formatting. That's just make sure I don't lose anything in the clipboard. And now I don't need this column anymore because these are just dates now. So I'm going to do control minus to get rid of that. I'm going to expand everything else. And now all I have to do is import this back into Outlook. So save the one with the formulas, get a copy and do a copy paste values, export it to a comma separated value files, and then using that same process in Outlook, coming over here to tasks, you would just do file, open and export, import, export, import from another program or file, and then choose CSV and go find the file. Now, a handy tip here as well, create a folder to import those tasks into. Don't just put them out there in the wild with all the rest of your tasks. Isolate them. Maybe you want one more look at them. Maybe you want to continue to manage them in the folder. But if you bring them into a folder first, you get one more chance to look at it, see if it all makes sense. Then you can categorize them if you want. That's what I do with mine. I've categorized tasks, and then I have brought them into my task folder so that I can just sort by category and then see all my projects together because I've categorized them. We've covered that in other training, but if you use categories, that's a very clever use for them. And then you can copy them back to the main task folder, and then you can see all of your tasks together. You can choose not to do all the Excel fancy formulas. You can just type the dates in. Still probably worth hanging on to that Excel file because it's very easy to work and move things around in Excel because you're just moving a line of data and then importing it back to Outlook clean and exactly the way you wanted to see it. Hey, go out to sawbuckseminars.com and look at our upcoming webinars. We have some new things popping up out there. Head out to melissaesquibel.com, watch-learn. What you would be subscribing to is we have over 60 webinars out there in the library right now. What you get is all of those recordings of the webinars, plus you get automatically registered for every Sawbuck seminar that we do. And then you'll have those recordings for a year. Head out to execsectech.com and make sure that you sign up for the new free newsletter. And we're really looking forward to the ExecSecTech conference in June. So I hope you join us there. I'm so glad that you were able to join me today. Please reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and please hit up Sawbuck Seminars. Thank you so much. Be well. Take care.